Hey y'all. So I'm gonna just get right to it. This episode made me sick. It made me sick to my stomach. There's no two ways about it. I felt disgusted watching this episode. So today I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. I'm not gonna go in chronological order because we obviously know what the biggest news, the biggest takeaway from the night was. So I'm gonna unpack that first, and then I'm gonna go through everything else in the level that interested me, essentially. Thank you so much for tuning in to Brianna's Bachelor Breakdown. A few housekeeping things before we get started. So I'm going to have timestamps in the description once again, so feel free to skip around and watch it in the order that you please. Next week, I'm going to have two very special guest hosts on my channel. These are two really awesome YouTubers that I've met here on the platform that do their own Bachelor recap similar to the way that I do it. Their names are CJ and Leanne. So they're a lot of fun. They give great breakdowns, hot takes, everything like that. So next week we're going to be doing one full recap together. Next week the episodes go back to one episode per week. So we're just going to recap the one episode that airs, and then we're going to cut the video in half, and half of the video will be on their channel and half of it will be on my channel. So you guys make sure to tune in to both parts if you want all of the tea. I will in the description link their channel, so you can go check out what they've been up to get kind of prepared and excited for next week. So that's what's going to be going on there. Let's just go ahead and unpack this absolute trash bag of an episode. So the part I want to start at is when right before Pieper arrives, right? Brendan rolls up to Natasha and they're sort of having a little chit chat, and he's like providing her some reassurance. He's like, I'm really committed to you. I'm definitely not a manipulative type of person. I would never be talking to you and then leave myself still open for somebody else, yada, yada, yada. Everything sounds good and dandy. And then Miss Pieper bursts through the door. Sis does not even pretend to pull any of the other guys. She does not even act. She does not waste anyone's time. That's one thing out of everything in this episode that I can give her credit for. That Miss Pieper did not waste anyone's time during this one specific moment. She did not act like she was here for any of the other guys. She pulled Brendan first, and that was that. Of course, he said yes to the date. And then he went over and pulled Natasha to kind of debrief and prep her for the date. So lots of F-boy cues to go over and unpack from this conversation. Number one, he did not ask Natasha how she was feeling at all. He was just kind of like, I'm going on this date. This is what it's going to be. X, Y, and Z. And of course, after watching everything fall apart, of course, we can confirm that he's an F-boy as we've known all along. But at this point, it's clear to the audience. I would say at this point, it's still clear to the audience, but it's not clear to Natasha. So I'm really unpacking this, to kind of try to get into her head a little bit and outline the cues that would be raising alarm bells in my head were I in her shoes in this particular situation when I didn't know all the details of how everything was going to go down yet, right? So F-boy cue number one, he doesn't ask her how she feels. He never says, I'm going to go on the date. Of course he doesn't need her permission. Even if he wasn't being sketch or sus about this, even if it was just an innocent, someone new came to the island type deal, of course he doesn't have to ask her permission to go hang out with someone else. But he doesn't check in with her. He doesn't say, how are you feeling? Do you feel any type of way about me going on this date? None of that is said. So that's F-boy cue number one. F-boy cue number two is that Brendan, he pulls the old classic line, you're so understanding. And on the surface, that might not seem like a very sus or sketchy thing to say, right? I mean, it's a compliment. It's a positive personality trait. It's something that I think we all kind of want to embody. We want to be someone that people think of as understanding, I would imagine. But I think the way that he's using it in this scenario is manipulative because it's conditional, right? So he's saying, you're so understanding, implying that for her to keep that label of being understanding, for him to think that she is someone understanding, she has to pretty much abide by whatever his whims are. She has to kind of go along with whatever he wants to do, or else she's no longer going to be painted as understanding. So it's not something that's necessarily, he's not calling out that personality trait because he genuinely thinks that she has it. He's calling out that personality trait because he knows that she doesn't want to lose that sort of praise from him. In order for her to be on his good side and receive those words of affirmation and those positive praises and call outs for him on a subconscious level, that's what she wants. She wants that affirmation on a subconscious level. She knows that she has to act in a certain way that he will find understanding in order to keep him at bay and maintain that equilibrium, that status quo, maintain that ability to be called understanding in their relationship. So that's why I think that it's manipulative, because it's not something that he truly believes. The last F-boy cue that we get from this little conversation, number 3, is that he tells her, oh, if someone else came up to you and wanted to go on a date with you, I would let you go, no problem. Brendan, that's just blatantly so annoying, because you don't care about her. It's so clear. It's so obvious at this point. You don't care about Natasha's feelings. So, of course, you would let her go on a date because you don't freaking care about this girl. So, it's like, that to me is just empty words. You're just saying that to say that. But it's manipulative, because in Natasha's head, with her still liking him at this point and still being in the dark about where everything is going to end up, she's saying, oh, well, I don't want to be the unfair one in this relationship. I don't want to be the one holding him back. He'd do the same for me, so I need to be okay with this and do the same for him. Like, that's so manipulative, because at the end of the day, like I said, he does not care about her, but he's not only feeding her these lines that don't mean anything, but that's, again, another way to kind of keep her under his thumb by making her think that he does care about her, because someone who says that, you would assume that there would be some sort of level of attachment to it. You would assume that the rest of the sentence would be, oh, I would allow you to go explore, but deep down inside, I'd want you to come back to me. Like, that's what we assume the whole train of thought process is, and that's what it has been for all the other couples on the island. Like, take Joe and Serena, for example. He was like, oh, you can go on this date with Thomas, but deep down inside, not very deep down inside, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. I'm not happy about it, right? But that's not how Brendan feels at all. So that's just, like, super annoying that he even fixed his mouth to say that. So then he and Piper go on his date, and initially Brendan is being kind of weird. He's telling Piper pretty much all the lines that he's been telling everyone on the island this whole time, that he and Piper, aren't that committed, it was never that serious, and that he's been kind of booed up with Natasha. Piper is blindsided. She feels like Brendan's downplaying their relationship, and she's like, okay, man, cut the crap, like, tell me what's really going on. And then he pretty much just confirms to her that he has been playing the game this whole time, and that he arranged for himself to stay here so that they can end up on Paradise at the same time. It was a super weird conversation, because it felt like they were trying to hatch an evil plot. Like, it felt like they were villains concocting, because they knew everyone's gonna be salty with them after they kind of broke the news of their relationship and how deep it was. But it felt like it was very much so like, it's us against the world. We don't need anyone to support our relationship. Like, we've got each other, blah, 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 blah. And that is always, to me, that's like a couple red flag. Like, I feel like if you and your partner start talking about these types of things, that's a massive question mark, and you should reevaluate your relationship. Because to me, the hallmark of a good relationship is having that support from your outside family and friends. If you know going into your relationship that everyone's gonna be mad at you and no one's gonna support it, then you need to reevaluate, why are you dating this person? And of course, that's making an exception for things like if you're two men dating each other and your family's homophobic. Like, that's a different type of scenario, because that's a family personal problem. That has nothing to do with your partner. They wouldn't care any man for them, if they're homophobic, they're going to have an issue with it. So that's not unique to the relationship. That's more of a personal problem. But I feel like if the family doesn't have any like isms or phobias in regarding to your partner or your sexuality or whatever, then they should be supportive of it. And if they're not, then to me, that's a sign that I need to say, okay, what's going on here? Because I'm only friends with people whose opinion that I trust. Right? So if I'm bringing my partner around my friends and then afterwards I'm asking for their opinion on said partner, that's because I trust and I value their input and their perspective on the relationship. So if these people that I trust and that I know have my best interest at heart are telling me, hey, you shouldn't date this person, this is not a good relationship, we don't like it together, like if I'm on Paradise and people are telling me you guys need to leave, then to me, that's a sign like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe this is not the most productive relationship for me to be in. But that's just me. I personally don't hatch evil plots and plans with people, so I can't speak to them. I also, this is skipping ahead a little bit, kind of commenting on what Riley, Maurissa, and Deandra were, chit-chatting about at the pool. Side note, I really loved that scene. I thought it was super cute. I always I liked that Riley was kind of hanging out with the girls. I always like seeing partners hanging out with their partners, friends, and just getting in on the girl chat or girls getting in on the guy chat or whatever. I like not always seeing a couple always booed up and just laying all over on top of each other. I like when they bring each other into their circles and kind of can hang out on a more friendship vibe for a minute. So that was fun. That was cute. But anyway, they were kind of discussing the obvious clout chasing that was going on. Let's break this down. Let's really pick this apart. I'm confused about what their purpose is, what their goal is, what they're hoping to achieve out of it, and how they thought doing this whole evil plot on ABC will help them succeed. Okay? Number one, if what they want is Instagram followers, let's say that's their goal, okay? They can achieve that without going on the show. Because they're talking about their tabloid, their media coverage, their US Weekly, whatever, that got them followers over the summer, I guess. I don't know when that article premiered. So there are other means outside of television to get followers if that's their goal. Additionally, they're both attractive people. Even though I'm over both of them, I'm good at compartmentalizing. So I can spot an attractive person even when I don't like their personality. Brendan is gorgeous. I will never not believe that, no matter how much a villain he is. He is, So Brendan is attractive. Piper's super cute. She's very pretty, gorgeous hair. They're a good looking couple and they're good looking individuals. So with those things combined, the outside media coverage and just their looks and aesthetics alone, they can get those Instagram followers if that's their ultimate goal. Okay? So again, confused as to what the purpose is because they can achieve that without going through ABC. Let's say Instagram followers is not the ultimate goal. Let's say that a free vacation is the ultimate goal, right? Paradise, all-inclusive, you get your meals paid for, you get a free bed, free tanning, whatever. Let's say that's the ultimate goal. Okay. You can achieve that, again, without ABC. If you leverage your Instagram followers, they're both verified on Instagram. They both have the blue check. So if they both get enough followers to be considered an influencer, they're going to start getting those free vacations. Brands are going to start reaching out to them. Hey, stay at our hotel. Hey, fly on our airline. Whatever. They're going to get that. So, again, confused. They can achieve a free vacation without utilizing ABC. So, again, I'm not sure what their ultimate goal is. Let's say that their ultimate goal is screen time, TV time. Okay. They can achieve that without ABC. They can start a YouTube channel And I think, honestly, had they done that, had they just kind of started, not really from the ground up, because they already have, like, clout or whatever, as we're seeing, if they just kind of provided themselves the opportunity, didn't use ABC's Bachelor in Paradise to kind of continue to elevate their screen time and TV career or whatever, I think people are still tuned in. Obviously, they're getting these followers. People are invested in them as humans, their journey, their relationship, whatever. So they can start one of those couple vlogging channels and it probably would have popped off. Like, I don't understand. And if their ultimate goal is like legitimate, actual TV, primetime entertainment, like they want a television show deal, you can do that without going through ABC. Like, there are TikTokers. I just saw on Hulu that TikToker girl, Charlie Dixie D'Amelio, I don't know how to pronounce her name. But those famous TikTokers, they just got a whole season, a whole TV show on Hulu from TikTok. Like, you can do that. You can get TV if that's your ultimate goal. You can do that, again, without going through ABC. So it's unclear to me what their ultimate goal is, because any of these three goals or all of those three goals can be achieved without ABC and without ruining their reputation, which they have just done. And that brings me to another point. It was hilarious. I was on Twitter after this, and I was really just scrolling, loving it, because everyone was talking about how they're going to go unfollow Brendan and Piper. They were, like, refreshing their Instagram pages to see how many followers they were losing, like, by the minute. People were, like, posting, like, screenshots periodically to be like, they're down another 1,000, down another 1,000, let's get it to another 1,000. Like, it was so funny. And I'm on the East Coast, and so people were talking about, like, oh my gosh, counting down until the West Coast, like, the show airs on the West Coast, and they're like, okay, everyone on the West Coast is about to see what's going on in their relationship. They're about to lose a whole nother chunk of followers. Like, that was priceless to me. That was hilarious. And it's like, their reputation, gone. If I were a brand, it would not be smart right now for me to be partnering with them. So again, like, I'm just confused because, like I said, they can achieve all their goals without ABC, and the way that they did it was so super shady that it doesn't help their reputation anyway. So it's like, what? I have no words. There are no other words for me to describe how much I don't understand this evil plot and evil plan. One thing that I will mention before I get into, like, them both of their conversations that they had with Natasha is going back. I feel like they're getting a lot of hate for this, right? But I think that Jessenia and Chris kind of did the same thing. They both had an off-screen pre-Paradise relationship that they picked back up once the other person arrived to the beach. And that annoyed me too. I don't think that Brendan and Piper are the only couple to do this. I think they do deserve all the heat and all the flack that they're getting, but I don't think they should be the only ones that we're kind of trying to call out and hold accountable. But one point that I will give Jessenia is that once Chris rolled up, he arrived, they had their date, she immediately cut things off with Ivan. And she didn't do it in a way that was rude, that was disrespectful, because as we'll get into in a second, Brendan really just showed he showed all his true colors, okay? And that's what really sent me over the edge. Jessenia, she did not come for Ivan's, like, character. She didn't come for his ability to, like, pull women. She didn't insult him to his face or behind his back. She just said, hey, you know what? I'm feeling this guy more. We're going to have to start talking romantically. Clean break, done. So I can respect her for that. So that's just a little side note, a little thought that was in the back of my head. Anyways, going back to the main event. So Brendan really fixed his mouth to say that Natasha had no prospects, that he essentially made it sound like he was doing her a favor by playing her, by making her look really dumb on TV. Like, this man really spun it out to be like, oh yeah, I gave her the rose because I feel like she deserves to find love. I feel like she deserves to still be here. Like, Brendan, who are you? Who are you? Natasha is so beautiful, and you are lucky you got her rose, right? There has not just been one rose ceremony. You also got her rose to allow you to stay here to hatch your little evil plot with Piper. So really, she did you a favor. So that was just so disrespectful, so rude, and I feel like Brendan's character was really exposed because he just showed how much he does not care about this girl. And I think Natasha described it best. She felt like she was just collateral damage. She was a casualty in their little evil plan. And I think that's the most accurate description of it, because like I wish Brendan would have linked up with Victoria P, because they could have formed a little alliance, had a little transactional relationship, and both met their goals, no issues, no one would have been hurt, everyone would have known what it was. Like, Victoria's out here to get Jeb on TV or whatever. Brendan is out here to do whatever he wants to do with Piper. Like, I really wish they would have linked up day one, and I wouldn't have had a problem with that, because they're both here for alternative purposes. They're both not here for the right reasons. And so I really hate that he felt the need to drag Natasha's feelings through the gutter, through the mud, made her look really just like, not that she looked dumb, but like made her feel dumb and embarrassed her on national television. Like, there was absolutely no reason to do that. And I really don't know what's wrong with him. So then, the next day, Natasha pulls Piper aside first. And this was one instance. I'm usually not a fan of the person outside of the relationship when they're having troubles with, like, the person that they're talking to inside of the relationship. I'm not a fan of the outside person addressing, like, the partner that they're not dealing with. I'm not a fan of a girl kind of coming to another girl as a woman. Like, if the boyfriend is cheating or whatever. Like, I don't see the purpose of that usually. But this was one instance where I was here for it, because I felt like Natasha was there to just collect evidence. She wasn't there to go off on Piper. She wasn't there to put her in her place, to kind of try to stake her claim in Brendan. She was there to collect evidence and collect the facts. Collect the travel dates that they had, the depth of their relationship, any labels that they ascribed to themselves. Like, she was just there to take notes, to fill in her journal, fill in the blanks, so that she could come prepared with the facts and the receipts when she approached Brendan. So I was here for it. And Piper was really sitting there looking dumb. So then Natasha, she goes and pulls Brendan. And this man, he keeps getting worse. It was one of those things where it wasn't secondhand embarrassment, because I feel like that can only happen if you, like, care about the characters on screen. And at this point, I don't care about Brendan and Piper. I don't care what happens to them. So it wasn't secondhand embarrassment, cringy, but it was just kind of like natural disaster. Just like something that just is going so poorly. Like, just something is blowing up in your face and you know it's bad, but you need to know how bad it's going to get, and you can't believe that it's getting worse. And that's why you can't look away, because you're like, what other foolish thing is going to come out of this man's mouth? And so that's exactly what happened when he was talking, when Brendan and Natasha had their little chit chat. Because he then emphasized to her face that he felt like he was doing her a favor. He was so rude, so disrespectful to her, talking about what other guys could you have gotten? Who else would you have explored with? Brendan, my whole issue with that is, like, she was booed up with you. She was caked up with you this whole time. So, of course, no one is going to go try to pursue her, because you were over here ruining her prospects. Like, that's... I don't even want to say that's on you, because I know he doesn't care, is the thing. But he's over here thinking that he is Natasha's savior, that he is the one who has given her the breath of life in Bachelor in Paradise, when she really did not need this man. I guarantee you Natasha still would have been here with or without Brendan, because she's a beautiful girl, and had Brendan not sunk his little evil claws into her from day one, she would have made a connection with someone else and went about her business. So that was out of pocket. That's really the only way I can describe it. He was altogether out of line, out of pocket. It was also rude that he claimed that she had selective hearing. I don't have anything else to say about that because that was just simply wrong. He never said that. Because the ABC producers are shady, but one thing they will do for you is build up that drama. So I guarantee you they would have edited that in. They would have showed us the foreshadowing of Brendan trying to pull away. I mean, of course we knew that he was never really showing too much interest in her, but he never explicitly said, oh, I don't feel for you in that way. I'm not doing X, Y, and Z with you. Like, Brendan, why did you kiss her then? You just kiss your friends? You just kiss people that you're not feeling romantic or intimate with? Like, Brendan, if you're gonna lie, at least make it good. At least make it believable. Like, it's not adding up. It's not, the math is not mathing. So that was altogether disgusting. I cannot wait to see how the rest of Brendan and Piper's time is on Paradise. We got a little clip from Riley saying you need to leave. I hope that is directed towards them. So we'll just have to see what's going on, because I, for one, am not here for their evil little plot. I saw some people calling for Natasha to be the Bachelorette on Twitter. I don't know how likely that's going to happen, but I feel like I would be here for it. She's a great girl. She's attractive. I think she'd be a strong lead. And I feel like it's not as comparable to like a Becca situation where I feel like they gave her the Bachelorette role because she was so dang screwed over by Ari that it was like, okay, we can't just leave this girl out to dry. So I don't feel like it's on that level because she wasn't engaged to Brendan, but I feel like it's comparable. I feel like it's a lesser version of that. So if they did give her the Bachelorette role, I would be here for it. I'm just going to put that out there. Any ABC producers that want to watch this Poppin' channel, y'all go ahead. You have Brianna Green's vote. So, finally moving on to the rest of the episode. So going back to the beginning, we opened the episode with Kendall and Joe. They're chit-chatting. One thing that I noticed right off the bat is that as soon as Kendall rolled up, Joe, he was ready to talk. He was ready to chat. She said, hey, Butthead, you want to talk? He was like, yeah, sprung into action. So that right there is already like, what are we doing? What's going on here? And he was like, she was talking about how nervous she was, and he was kind of like assuaging her fears, being like, it's okay, like, we're here, we're cool, we're gonna chat, it's gonna be fine. He's complimenting her, he's telling her, oh, you look good, I like your red ensemble, whatever. So very friendly tone. It didn't feel like two exes meeting, which is a question mark, because this man is claiming that he's over her. But we'll get into that. So they walk over there, they're talking. Kendall is very emotional. It honestly sounded like she was about to cry, but she kind of works through her emotions. They go on with the conversation. One thing that I was really intrigued to see, that I was really poised for, was I wanted to see exactly how much time it would take for Joe to bring up Serena and to tell Kendall, hey, I'm talking to someone here on the beach. And I will say that Joe failed the test. Because although they did talk about it and he did kind of tell Kendall what it was, he never brought it up. Kendall asked him, what have you been up to on the beach? Fill me in on what's been going on. And Joe kind of said, oh, yeah, that's my cue. Let me tell you about Serena, da-da-da-da. So Joe never brought Serena up. I just want to make that clear. I want to jot that down for the record. Because that to me is a red flag. That to me shows me that if you're rolling up to your ex and you're not making it clear what type of situation you're in, you might as well be rolling up single. That's all I have to say. So he didn't tell Kendall. Technically, he did not. I don't even count that as a conversation. Technically, he did not tell Kendall about Serena. Okay. So then they go on, they reminisce about their time on the beach. The producers play this little flashback, remind us how they fell in love, all this stuff, very cute. And Kendall kind of emphasizes that Kendall kind of emphasizes that she wants him to be back in her life in some capacity. And Joe says same. Okay, Kendall knew she was arriving, so she had all this time to plan her emotions, to get in her feelings, to know how she was going to approach Joe. This is a surprise for Joe, so he's not at the same emotional place as quickly. as Kendall is, but I think the emotions are still just there under the surface. They're available to be pulled from. So Joe agrees that he would like to have contact with Kendall. Okay. And so then they go in and they kind of rehash their relationship and like what kind of went wrong with their logistics and their Chicago and whatever. And I feel like there's an interesting power dynamic going on here. I think that in the situation of Paradise, objectively, outside of their relationship, outside of whatever happened up until this point, in Paradise at face value, I think Joe has more power in the situation. Because Kendall's the one that rolled back up to him. She's the one putting herself on the line, saying, I want you back. I came here for you, even though she's like, I'm here to date other people, whatever. No one believes you. She's here to be with Joe. So therefore, Joe has more power because he has the power to say yes or no, does he want to be with her? But, and what's interesting, and this is what I got from their conversation about Chicago and deciding where they want to live, I think that Kendall has more power overall in the entire relationship because she seems more stuck in her ways than Joe is. She seems to be like, well, I don't want to move for a man. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, that, and the third. And I feel like Joe's perspective was just like, oh, well, I just want you to give Chicago a chance. You don't like it, that's fine. But just give it a chance, come in open-minded, and see what's happening. And I think he's, like, open to not staying there forever. I think he was kind of just saying, it's a very important, like, that's my hometown. I do want to spend a significant portion of time in my life there, but, like, that's not the end-all, be-all. I think they could have, if Kendall had been more open to it, I think they could have worked it out to be like, let's spend, a decade in Chicago, a decade in like LA or wherever she lives, and then maybe we can retire in Florida, like whatever. They could have worked something out, but she didn't even want to take step one and see what Chicago was talking about. So I feel like in that scenario, Kendall had more power because she was the one putting the foot in place, putting her foot down and not working on any sort of compromise. Whereas I feel like for Joe, if Kendall had been open to going to Chicago, they wouldn't have broken up at the end of the day. If she came back here right now to the beach and said, I will move to Chicago, that would have been it. Joe would have been back with her. So I think that's why Kendall has more power overall in the relationship. But I think at the end of the day, I think they're just very different people. I think that Kendall is someone who says what she means and means what she says and doesn't realize. I think she's a little aloof. People that are like that, they don't realize that not everyone else is like that. Or that not everyone like plans. I think she's also a planner, and she's like, this is what I want for my life, and that's how it's going to be. And she kind of told him, I told you from day one I didn't want to live in Chicago, so I don't know why you're coming back here talking to me about your hometown, But I feel like Joe is the type of person who doesn't evaluate things until he has to. He doesn't do anything with the information that's provided to him, because he said, well, I didn't know you at that point, which to me says he took in that information, but he didn't factor it into getting to know her, because he was like, well, this information is, I don't know how relevant this information is, because I don't know how relevant you are going to be in my life or not, right? Like, if you're just meeting someone for the first time, if they came up to me and said, I don't want to live in your hometown, okay, well, okay. We might not have a relationship to the point where that becomes a big deal to us, So I feel like Joe is just kind of like, well, that information, I threw it away because I didn't know what you were going to mean to me. And then when the time came where I realized you did mean something to me and that piece of information was valuable, that's when I started to factor it in. But I think Kendall was a little blindsided because, like I said, she's a planner. She's someone who, she says what she says, and that's what it is. And I think they have a bit of incompatibility in that sense. But I think if that could be worked on, they probably would get back together. So then that brings us to Joe and Serena chit-chatting. Obviously, Joe has more power in this situation because he's like, he's the one with the ex available. Serena she's not really talking to anyone at this point in time. She's not really seeking to make other connections. But what's interesting to me is that while I did appreciate Joe kind of being honest with Serena and telling her, like, hey, this is what happened in the conversation, this is what Kendall's intentions are, like, I give him props for, like, not really being shady or, like, holding anything back. there was one sentence that kind of stuck out to me. He said, we have to have other conversations while she's here. And you don't. I feel like the operative word there is have. You do not have to have other conversations. That's a choice. He should have framed it as, I'm going to choose to have other conversations with my ex. Not, we have to have other conversations, because that makes it sound like a passive experience. That makes it sound like she is just like the teacher pulling him out of class, talking to him, like that he has no say in the matter, whatever. Like, Joe is showing up to the conversation just as much as Kendall is arriving to the conversation. He is bringing himself there. He's bringing himself there. This is a grown man. So I would have preferred him to own that a little bit more and just kind of said, hey, I really like you, but I still want to see what's going on with my ex. You can do with that information what you will, but just know that we're not at the stage where we're completely cutting each other off at this point, and I don't know where it's gonna lead. So that was kind of sus to me, but I feel like, I don't know if Serena, obviously she was upset, and obviously she can tell that it's not an ideal situation, but I'm not sure if she kind of picked up on how Joe's carrying himself in the situation, because he threw that sentence in to the whole larger conversation of him, like, being honest and telling her what's going on and, like, generally having a positive, like, open attitude about everything. So that was just a bit of a question mark for me. Moving on, we have Abigail and Noah. They make up. I was super happy to see that because I like them as a couple. Noah kind of expresses that he feels like he doesn't always get the validation or reciprocation for Abigail that he's looking for. And of course she says that she'll work on it. They kiss, they make up. I honestly, like I said in my last video, I think that Paradise is going to be their biggest challenge. I think that they just are susceptible to comparing themselves as a couple to other couples, to getting a little rushed by the process. But I think if they can make it through Paradise and into the real world, they can have a functional relationship that will unfold naturally and organically. I really believe in them. They just got to get through this first hurdle. Lastly, we have these three women fighting over this 40-year-old band manager. So Mari rolls up to Kenneth, and she's over here talking about, I want to be back with you. Her main reason that she provided for him was that she said, I had to see you with other people to realize how much I liked you. That's like a toxic statement that people misread as like romantic. Like, oh my gosh, like them seeing me with other people made them realize how much they like me. Like, no, that to me is an emotional red flag on Mari's part. Because that shows to me, number one, that you don't have the communication skills necessary to voice how you're feeling, to voice that you're getting a little overwhelmed by the process, and that, you know, maybe you want to slow things down, or maybe you're seeking some sort of validation from your partner before you continue to move forward together. Like, I feel like that feeling of like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed by how much I like you, that calls for a conversation about where you are and what you are, as opposed to, oh, well, let's just go talk to other people. Like, what? So that was a question mark for me. And number two, I feel like it's a bad sign, because I feel like that's easily solved in Paradise, where like you do have the opportunity to see him with other people, like the next minute, literally. Like, you have the opportunity to kind of get what you needed out of that situation and kind of, you know, have that resolution that you were looking for and confirm that your feelings were what you thought they were. But that's not how it works in real life. If in real life you guys are talking, you're getting to know each other, and you're like, oh, well, let's not be exclusive, let's see other people, it's not going to be in front of your face unless the person is just like dumb or like rude and obnoxious. Like, you might know that they're going out on other dates, but you're not going to see it. They're not going to like FaceTime you on the date. Like, so she would not have gotten that smack in the face that it seemed like she needed to reevaluate her feelings for Kenneth. So to me, that was just like, that was a red flag. I feel like Morais needs to unpack that a little bit more. And then Kenny is over here just sitting there, mouth agape. Like, he's just like, the whole time. Like, he's just not, he was never the most prized possession on the beach. To me, he was never, like, the biggest catch. So to find this man caught up in this love triangle, square, whatever geometric shape he's in, it's just, you know, I gotta give it to him. And I feel like Kenny, for his part, I think he likes Morais, and I think that he ultimately wants to end up with her, but I think that he trusts her a little less, which is understandable. But I think that he, initially at first, it seems like he's trying to calculate how he can finesse to keep them, all three of his girls, kind of available to him while pursuing Morais the most. I think he just wants the other, like, Demi and Tia to fall back on because he feels insecure. Morais made him feel insecure, and he doesn't want to feel like that again, and he wants to feel like he has a safety net. That's all it is. But it seems like ultimately he realizes that he can't, like, manage that. He can't handle it. It's not feasible when everyone has eyes on you all the time in paradise, whatever the case may be. So the next day we see him and Morais kind of like cuddled up. So I guess we didn't really get any closure on that because we obviously had bigger things to get to. But it seems like they have rekindled and reunited. So let me know in the comments, what did you guys think of this episode? Tell me your thoughts on Brendan and Pieper, Natasha. Are you happy that Noah and Abigail reunited? What do you think is going to happen with Joe, Kendall, and Serena? Give me everything, and I will see you guys for another episode of Brianna's Bachelor Breakdown.